Hi, everyone. I hope that your week went well. This week in Level F, we're going to be covering lessons 37 to 40, and you will need worksheets 26 through 29, the practice sheets 1 and 2. Remember, you used 1 last week. You did one of the multivides. The second one will be this week. You'll need the centimeter cubes, colored tiles, 4-in-1 ruler, meter stick, the activities for learning abacus, the math card games book, and the Corners card deck. So let's get started. In lesson 37, we will be working on dividing decimals by whole numbers. And after a quick oral warm-up, give your student the worksheet and have her read the first problem. I like to have my kids read it out loud, just because it helps me know that they're actually reading it properly and understanding it, but it's up to you. And in this case, you're going to have a lot of clarifying questions afterwards, so that you should be asking them after they've read the problem to themselves. So that should, make it really clear to you whether or not they understand it. After problem 3, the book does not have you ask your child to explain how they got the answer, but I would keep that pattern going because it's really good to ask questions. It makes them think differently. As you know, it's harder to explain how to do something that you're really good at to someone else. It takes a different skill, right? You need to stop and think through the steps. Well, that's what you're asking your child to do, because they could have been, figuring it out perfectly fine, but then to explain it really makes sure that they know it. All right, then you could move on to problem 4. Note that the division section will look differently at the bottom of the multivide from the book if your child chooses different divisors. So let's say that we're dividing by 15 and they, let's say 12, and they choose 2 and 6, but the book chose 3 and 4. Okay, so that would give you a different divisor. Or maybe they did choose 3 and 4, but the book started with 4 and they started with 3. So those intermediary numbers will look different depending on what number your child chose, but the answer should still be the final answer should still be the same. Then go on, you're done with that worksheet, so go ahead and ask the in conclusion questions and finish up with subtraction corners with tenths, which is F22.6 in the math card games book. We do have a blog about it, and it's using eighths instead, but it's the same rules. It's just you need to change the number to tenths. It's basically the same thing. All right, in lesson 38, we will be reviewing area and multiplying tenths by tenths. So the warm-up is the second multivide on practice worksheet 1. And I should have mentioned that these worksheets are often used for multiple lessons. So make sure that you hold on to them. So the fact that you worked on the practice sheet last week doesn't mean you can just file it away, right? I would hold on to it. If there's something not complete on there, that'll give you a clue that it's going to be used at another time. All right. Worksheet 27, ironically, will also be needed for the next lesson, lesson 39. After reviewing square centimeters and square inches with the cubes and the tiles, your child will be making different rectangles with the same area, 12 centimeters squared. And you want them to make as many as possible. So if they make one and they're like, I'm done, say, okay, what else could you do with it? And really have them play with it to figure out how many other rectangles they could make. Then you move on to problem 1, and once a solution has been found, have your student discuss their answer. It's good to discuss all the possible solutions, or at least one other than what they chose. Notice how the book asks your child to think about where to put the decimal point. Once again, this is going back to last week. We talked about how you could easily tell them to just count how many decimal places there are and count that many from the right, but that stops thinking. We really want the kids to think logically about it. Oftentimes, even in tests like the SAT and ACT, you just need to get close to the answer in order to know what the answer is. So this is helping them figure out what the correct answer is based on logic. Does it make sense that 6.2 times 8.4 would be 0.5217? I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't really know what it is. But what I'm saying is it makes more sense that it would be 48 point something or 50 point something, right? Based on 6 times 8 is 48. I would really encourage that kind of thinking and have them really try to figure it out using common sense and logic. All right, go ahead and have your student finish the worksheet and then ask the in conclusion questions. You can play Corner Puzzles, which is A42, and that also has a blog by Debbie, who actually loves puzzles, so she was really excited to do that blog. For lesson 39, we will be reviewing what decimeters are and finding area using hundredths. The warm-up is a multivide from practice worksheet 2. Your child will be exploring the relationship between centimeters, decimeters, and meters using the ruler and the meter stick. And the questions on this page are really important, especially on the first page, because they help your child realize the relationship between those different sizes, those different measurements. Discuss with your child the problem as he or she completes the worksheet. And then after the in conclusion questions, your child can choose whichever game they would like to play. All right, in lesson 40, we will be dividing by tenths. The warm-ups are on worksheet 29, and I love how the abacus is used to show the relationship between dividing whole numbers and dividing decimals. So let's just take a look at what that looks like.
Okay, so the example that we have in the book is 8/4. And the instructions say to have your student enter 8 on the top line, and then skip a line and enter 4, and put it halfway in between, in the middle of the 8. Okay? And then they're going to say how many 4s are in 8. And they can see pretty easily, okay, there's 4 and 4. So there's 2 4s in 8. So my answer is 2. Next, we're going to do that again, but instead of each of these beads being equal to 1, they're actually equal to a tenth. So my fraction will now look like 0.8 and 0.4. So 8/10 divided by 4/10 equals what? Well, once again, they can see that there's 2 4s, and that's the answer. So my answer is 2. It's not 0.2, it's 2. Okay, so they can see this would be very confusing on paper. The child would be really tempted to write 0.2. But on the abacus, you can see that the answer doesn't change. Even if the value of the bead, as long as they're the same value, the value of the bead changes, the answer doesn't change.
Okay, so after demonstrating that, have your child do the first 3 problems on the worksheet and ask for an explanation of the solutions. At this point, your child should be able to complete the rest of the worksheet without further instruction. Notice the interesting question at the bottom of the worksheet. It says, if each bead in the abacus is above, there's many abacuses on the worksheet, if those beads suddenly explode, becoming 10 times greater, what happens to your answer? I think most people would have said, before this lesson anyway, that the answers would have increased 10 times. But as we know from what we just did in the demonstration and what your child will know after doing that worksheet, that's not true. The answers stay the same. All right, ask the in conclusion questions and then play Subtraction Corners with tenths again. That's it for this week, and we will see you next time for lessons 41 to 44. I hope you have a great week. Thanks. Bye-bye.